For the LGBTIQ community in Botswana, the High Court has unanimously overturned colonial laws criminalising homosexuality. But this victory comes just weeks after Kenyan courts upheld laws banning same-sex relations. So what does the court judgment mean for the community on the continent? Joining me on the line is colonial Mokorwani, Public Development and Advocacy Fellow at the Sonka Gender Justice. Very good to have you with us on the line. Quite a victory. Talk us through what sort of impact it's likely to have.
It's really quite a victory. I mean, we're still very gleeful about what the Botswana High Court has said. I suppose what it says is just a first step in order for queer people, particularly queer people in Botswana, to obtain full equality in Botswana. So decriminalisation means that queer people will not be treated as criminals anymore. Effectively, it will open health rights, education rights, rights in terms of legal protection, rights in terms of changing our gender identity. So it really is a first step in order to become full citizens and African citizens. And it's just really great.
Yeah, big, massive, and the right step. How difficult will this be to translate on the ground, though, considering the community is rather conservative there?
So I think that law is a catalyst for social change. I think what we're going to find will happen is that once you tell people to stop doing something, in most instances, they stop doing it. So we think that it will help us and help queer people in Botswana to be able to integrate well into the community. We're not saying that homophobia or transphobia or queerphobia will be something that will go away overnight, but we think that it will be reduced because now even the law recognizes homosexuality or queerness. And in some ways, that's what people used, as they say, you know, it's not against it's against the law. And in some instances, they said it's un-African. But the court has also said that homosexuality is not un-African. So, you know, creating really important pronouncements about queerness.
I mean, you look at what's happened in the Kenyan court. They've just gone the opposite direction. Do you think this would eventually have some sort of impact on those countries on the continent, and there are too many of them, which still ban queerness, as you say?
I hope that this judgment will be used in order to allow other members of Africa in particular to use it for the decriminalisation project. I know that the Kenyan court is going to appeal the decision to the Supreme Court of Kenya, and we hope that the Supreme Court will look at the Botswana decision and look at what the Botswana decision has made. And because the laws are similar, you know, the colonial laws are from Britain, so they're similar. So decolonizing it will be important, and I think that the Botswana decision is a good way to do that.
And I should imagine you got here and all of those who fought for this through blood, sweat and tears, and, you know, the emotional aspect of bringing a community out from hiding.
Yes, and I mean, the difficulty that we've always been sitting as queer activists has been that, you know, what would have happened if it didn't go the way that it did, right? So it was also really exposing people and creating some form of vulnerabilities. But we're happy that it went the way that it went. But we're also happy that there were other members of religious groups who are also happy with the decision. So we're seeing that it's also trickling down, not only in terms of law, but societally in terms of religion. There are people who are also accepting. So I think that this decision is going to change a lot for queer people in Botswana.
And do you think it'll encourage people to come out, those who've been too frightened to do so in the past?
I think so. I think that it will allow people to start having conversation about living their fullness and inviting themselves, you know, inviting people into their lives. So I think that it will make it safer for people to be able to invite people into their lives.
You touched on it briefly, but tell us more about this law being part of the colonial project that affected several countries. Why was it there?
So a lot of the laws, it's essentially a penal code. This penal code comes from King Henry's Act of 1853, which was essentially an act that criminalized anal and oral sex between people, and they were important in these British colonies. A lot of Commonwealth countries then adopted these laws, and these laws were used to ban homosexuality. In fact, because the thing is, these colonial laws, what they say is they ban anal and oral sex for both homosexual and heterosexual people, but are largely used to ban homosexuality.
Thank you very much for talking to us, and delighted to share your good news with you. That's our show.